Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We go back 88 years to February 26, 1935, an episode of the West Coast crime program Calling All Cars and California's two-man crime wave. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday with us here on this 26th day of February, 57th day of the year, 308 days remaining until we get to 2024. President Lincoln signed the National Currency Act into law in 1863. In New York City in 1870, the first pneumatic subway opened. In 1919, an act of Congress established most of the Grand Canyon as a national park. The Grand Teton National Park created 10 years later in 1929. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill announced in 1952 that his nation had an atomic bomb. The last radio broadcast of Dragnet on this date in 1957, and in 1966, the launch of the first flight of the Saturn 1B rocket in NASA's Apollo program. In 1972, President Nixon ended his historic talks with Zhou Enlai with his departure from Peking for Shanghai. On this audio clip, Nixon talks about the accomplishments of his trip to China.
The primary goal of this trip was to reestablish communication with the People's Republic of China after a generation of hostility. We achieved that goal.
Unfortunately, things have become more hostile between China and the U.S. In 1987, a 300-page Tower Commission report on the Iran-Contra affair released, portraying President Reagan as being misled and remote enough to allow staff members to organize and trade arms to Iran for hostages in Lebanon. Congressman Charles Schumer of New York told his colleagues the report makes the truth stranger than fiction.
This report's got spies, arms smuggling, beautiful secretaries, and international intrigue. All the makings of a great Hollywood movie script. Unfortunately, it's real life, and it's at the White House.
And yet stranger things have happened since that time, 1987. On Baghdad Radio on this date in 1991, leader Saddam Hussein announced the withdrawal of Iraqi troops from Kuwait, thus bringing to an end much of the Gulf War. 1993, in New York City, a truck bomb parked beneath the North Tower of the World Trade Center went off, killing 6 and injuring over 1,000. Those buildings would be destroyed in a subsequent attack on September 11, 2001. A woman who was in the subway at the time of the explosion describes the scene.
I was basically scared for my life. Many people were crying. Some people fell. Some people fainted. We were trying to help this lady that was about to faint. We helped her up the stairs. But there were so many people, so many different reactions, but I was basically afraid for my life.
And yes, this was a first attack on the World Trade Center in 1993. And lest we think that there were not operatives in the, well, I'm not going to get into that, but it's obvious what was going on. At the Houston Astrodome on this date in 1995, Selena performed in her last concert before she was killed. And in 2004, the U.S. lifted a ban on travel to Libya, ending travel restrictions to the nation that had lasted for 23 years. Passing away on this date, a fine composer, Howard Hanson, comedian Bill Hicks, Bosley on Charlie's Angels, David Doyle, and Judge Wapner from the People's Court. This is the birth date of French writer Victor Hugo, German-born clothing designer Levi Strauss, also Buffalo Bill, the pioneer officer and hunter, Fred Mertz in I Love Lucy, and Bub in My Three Sons, William Frawley, born on this date, cartoonist Tex Avery, also actor Dane Clark and actor Robert Alda, also Mason Adams, born on this date, Tony Randall, born on this date as well, Betty Hutton, game show host Tom Kennedy, and Johnny Cash, born on this date as well, and comedian Jackie Gleason.
My father left home when I was 6 or 6 and a half
And my mother died when I was very young. And so I needed love and approbation and all those other things. And what better way to get them than on the stage where maybe 2,000-3,000 people all laugh at once or applaud at the same time. That gives you a great feeling.
If you see me coming down the street, get on the other side. When you come down the street, there ain't no other side.
The very, very funny Jackie Gleason, born on this date back in 1916. Also born on this date, Fats Domino. Ain't that a shame? Let's see. Mitch Ryder of Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels is 78. Singer Michael Bolton is 70. And singer Erykah Badu is 52. Those just a few of the people celebrating the 26th day of February as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
From 88 years ago, Tuesday, February 26, 1935, Calling All Cars. That's up next on this Sunday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back 88 years to the West Coast program Calling All Cars, February 26, 1935, and the story of California's two-man crime wave.
Calling all cars. A presentation of the Rio Grande Oil Company.
San Francisco Police calling all cars. Attention all cars. Broadcast 66. Wanted for bank robbery. 2 men. Wore mask. No other description. These men are armed and dangerous. That's all.
Oakland Police, attention all cars, new city orders. Use only Rio Grande cracked gasoline for all emergency equipment.
Merced, California, effective immediately. All Merced police cars and fire engines have switched to Rio Grande cracked gasoline.
Calling all Berkeley police cars. Rio Grande cracked gasoline has been specified by the city of Berkeley for all police, fire, and emergency equipment.
Arizona calling. Attention all Maricopa County Sheriff's cars and emergency equipment. Maricopa County insists that Rio Grande cracked gasoline be used exclusively.
Los Angeles Police calling all cars. Because our city has found that Rio Grande cracked gasoline is faster, more powerful, and more economical, we have awarded the Los Angeles City gasoline contract to Rio Grande for the 3rd consecutive year. That is all.
Tonight, it is our pleasure to present Chief James E. Davis of the Los Angeles Police Department. Chief Davis.
Good evening, friends. One of the most interesting and mystifying oddities of police work is the strange mental quirks which so dominate the personalities of certain unfortunates, that they would rather dedicate themselves to a life of crime than one of respectability, in a world offering them every opportunity for success. This type of criminal is a difficult one with whom to deal. He is more intellectual than the usual criminal type. He believes that only fools work, and he sets out to collect the living he feels the world owes him. But he never succeeds in gaining a safe, easy life. No criminal, no matter how momentarily successful he may be, achieves safety or contentment. This drama indicates more forcibly than words how true this is.
It is just an hour before closing time at the Western State Bank in Los Angeles. One of the tellers notices a well-dressed young man approach the window and then seem to change his mind. The teller, seeing that the newcomer is hesitant, is about to speak when suddenly the young man walks up to him.
Keep your mouth shut and shove those banknotes under the grill. And you'd better hurry or let go of this bottle.
Say, what is this?
If it'll make you any more careful, I might tell you there's enough nitroglycerin in this little bottle to blow everybody in this bank to pieces. So just keep smiling and look as though nothing were wrong, and hurry up.
Yes, sir. Here you are, sir.
Thanks. You're a smart young fella. Now, if you'll just be smart enough to keep quiet until I get out of here, you'll probably continue to live for a long time.
The polite young man walks calmly out of the bank, steps into a car at the curb, and drives off. But the teller in the bank has not waited for him to get far before he notifies the police and gives a perfect description. 15 minutes later, the bandit is stepping out of his car in front of his house when a police car draws up alongside and two policemen leap out with guns in their hands.
Wait a minute, young fellow. What's your hurry?
Why, I'm in no hurry. What do you fellas want?
Well, I think you know well enough what we want. Where's the money?
Hey, what the devil are you talking about? I don't know anything about any money.
Well, we'll just take a look through your pockets, and then maybe you'll have a different story to tell.
Now, wait a minute here. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but I can assure you that I'm not going to stand here and let you search through my clothes. I haven't done anything.
Now, isn't that just too bad? Bill, be very careful that you don't soil this gentleman's suit when you look in his pockets. We wouldn't want to do that, would we?
No, I should say we wouldn't. No, mister, if you'll just stand quiet for a minute till I see what you got here. Oh, well, nice crisp banknotes and a Western States Bank mackerel band around them, huh?
Well, what do you say to that now, young fella?
Well, is there anything wrong in having some money in your pocket? I just drew that from my account at the bank.
Just drew it from your account at the bank, huh? Well, I'm afraid you'll have little use for it for a while to come. All right, Bill, let's give this banking gentleman an escort to the police station. I'm sure the chief would just love to meet him.
Now, listen, you're making a big mistake about this. When you get me to the station and I tell them who I am, it'll go pretty hard with you. My father's a good friend of the chief.
Is that so? Well, maybe you and the chief can have a nice little chat, and then we'll all go over and have dinner together. That'd be nice, wouldn't it, Bill?
Well, I'd be delighted.
Now, one of these days, you smart cops are going to laugh out of the other side of your face.
A few minutes later, at police headquarters, the suspect, still loudly proclaiming the fact that it's going to be tough on the officers when he sees the chief, is ushered into the chief's office.
Well, Brown, what's the trouble?
We got a young fellow with us who seems to feel that we've done a terrible thing to arrest him. Maybe he'd like to tell you what it's all about.
What's he charged with?
Bank robbery. He walked in about an hour ago and lifted $1,000 from the teller in the Western States Bank. We got a call on it, and from the description of the car he drove off in, we were able to pick him up 15 minutes after he'd pulled the job. He still had the money on him.
What have you got to say to this?
Oh, these cops are crazy, Chief. I told them where I got the money, but they didn't believe me.
Where did you get it?
Well, I drew it out of a savings account. I was going to buy an automobile and take a trip.
I see. Well, that ought to be easy enough to prove. I'll just check with the bank, and if they say you have an account, everything will be all right. What name is the account under?
Why, Summers. George Summers.
Brown, will you put a call into the bank and check that name? You'd better have the teller who saw the man take a run over here.
Yes, sir, I'll do it.
Sit down, Mr. Summers.
Thanks.
What business are you in?
Why, I'm connected with the brokerage office.
Oh, a broker. How's business this year? I'd heard things weren't so good on the market.
Oh, I don't know. I don't suppose things are any better than they were last year.
Well, you must have done pretty well to be able to afford a new automobile.
New automobile? Oh, yes, a new automobile.
You hadn't forgotten about it, had you?
No, of course not.
Why don't you give up, Summers? You pulled that job and you haven't any account with the bank. Now, why don't you save yourself a lot of trouble and stop lying?
I'm not lying. Why would I want to lie?
You're pretty cool, aren't you? Well, that's all right with me. As soon as Brown is checked with the bank, it won't be necessary for you to tell me anything. Only I thought that you might want to tell me about it before the others got back. You don't look like a criminal, Summers. You look like a college man. Why the devil did you want to go around holding up banks?
I didn't want to go around holding up banks. And if you think you can make me say something incriminating, you're crazy.
Okay, have it your own way.
Well, I got the dope for you, Chief.
Fine, come in.
There's no account listed under the name of George Summers. They never heard him.
I see. Did you speak to the teller?
Yes, and he's on his way over here now.
Thanks, Brown, that's all.
Yes, sir.
Well, Summers, what have you got to say to that?
Well, I don't suppose there's anything much I can say, is there?
Why in the deuce were you so bound and determined to stick to that crazy story of yours when you knew the bank would deny it? Just want to be more trouble to the police?
Oh, I don't know. This is the first time I've ever done anything crooked. I guess I sort of hoped to talk my way out of it. I could always talk my father out of giving me a licking for something I'd done wrong, and, well, I guess I thought I could do it with you.
Well, maybe now that you know you can't, you'll tell me all about it, right from the start.
Well, I work for my father, and he only pays me $25 a week. I figured that I could make a bit of money from this job and then quit. I didn't mean to make a habit of it.
You weren't satisfied with your wages, eh? Well, that's certainly too bad. I'm afraid the state pays a lot less when they're boarding you at San Quentin.
Well, they can't send me to San Quentin for this, can they?
They not only can, but I can assure you they will.
In the trial, it develops that the name Summers is an alias, the real name being James Stanley. As this is his first offense, he is sentenced to San Quentin with a recommendation for parole at the end of 1 year. Stanley is a model prisoner. At the end of the year, he is released and returns to his home in Los Angeles. His father offers him his old job. And for 2 months, father and son carry on business with perfect harmony. But suddenly, the serenity of the elder Stanley is once again given a jolt when at the end of the week he discovers money missing from the company's safe. Refusing to believe that his son has taken it, he fires one of his employees and changes the combination on the safe. But at last, after changing the combination 5 times, after firing 5 employees, Mr. Stanley faces the realization that his son is the only possible guilty person. Sick with bitter disappointment over the weakness of his son, he waits until the rest of the staff have gone home and then calls him into the office.
Yes, Dad? What's on your mind?
James, I have something to say to you. Something that I've hoped and prayed and almost believed would never become necessary.
Why, what do you...
Wait. There's no use in your trying to deny anything. Nothing you can possibly say can do you any good. I want you to listen until I'm finished, and then you may do as you like. I'm an old man, James. I've had many bitter pills to swallow in my lifetime. Pills that I thought at the time were the worst I would ever have to take. And yet there's been one thing that I've fought for, one thing that's kept me going on, fighting to build a business to be proud of. That one thing, James, was you.
Yes, but Dad...
No, don't say anything until I'm through. I won't be long. My boy, you've been my one hope. I forgave you when you slipped the first time. I thought I knew you. And I've tried to delude myself by looking everywhere, anywhere but towards you during the last few months. I've discharged men who were faithful to me for years. And after all this, I find that there's only one answer. You've been stealing from my safe.
Now, wait a minute, Dad, I haven't.
You have. I've known inside me all the time that you were doing it, but my pride insisted that I was wrong. That no matter what was the case, you could never do such a low, sneaking thing to your own father. And now, I've only one more thing to say to you. You've taken all the faith that I have or will ever possess in human nature and destroyed it. And I want you to leave tonight. And I don't ever want to see or hear of you again. You've chosen your own way of living, well, follow it. But if I ever see you on the street, I shall not recognize you. To me, you are completely and forever a thing of the past. From this moment on, you are dead.
All right. All right, throw me out in the street and have a good time while you're at it. You think I'm going to cringe and crawl to you? Well, you've got another thought coming. I don't care if I never see you again. It suits me just fine. If you've paid me any sort of a decent salary, maybe I wouldn't have had to walk off with any money. But you're too cheap to give me more than just what's enough to keep me living. All right, I'm leaving. And one of these days you're going to hear about me, and hear plenty. I'm going to have money, and I'm going to have so much that I won't have to work another day in my life.
6 years roll by. 6 years in which Stanley becomes known to the police of the West as the Phantom Bandit. He is wanted by the San Francisco police for having perpetrated more than a score of daring holdups. 13 robbery victims identify a picture of James Stanley, alias George Summers, as the man that robbed them. The police of every western city are notified by police circulars to be on the lookout for him. But always he manages to stay out of jail. September 13th, 1928. The Lark, Los Angeles bound, is standing in a small watering station only a few miles from its destination. In the club car, a group of San Francisco and Los Angeles businessmen are discussing plans for the coming year. Golf, business, and the usual small talk of the smoking cars. Suddenly, the door at the end of the coach opens, letting in a blast of cold September air. 2 men and a woman step in. And the travelers find themselves looking into the business ends of 2 guns held by the men.
If you'll be so kind, gentlemen, as to just line up over there against the bar and put your hands above your heads, I assure you there'll be no violence. Now, I'd strongly advise you not to make any unusual noises that might attract the attention of the conductor. It would be too bad if my friend and I had to shoot somebody.
Look here, man, you can't get away with this.
Shut up.
Lydia.
Yeah?
Frisk those guys and let's get out of here.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, you've annoyed my friend. You know, if I were you, gentlemen, I think I'd do just as I was told. We'll only take a minute.
All right, I've got everything.
Okay, let's go.
Thank you, gentlemen, thank you. And I wish you all a very pleasant journey.
February 26, 1935, Calling All Cars on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The news from 88 years ago today follows these important messages from your favorite radio station. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell and MyPillow launching the MyPillow 2.0. Now, when Mike invented MyPillow, it had everything you could want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he's discovered a new technology that makes MyPillow even better. Of course, the patented adjustable fill of the original MyPillow, but now with brand new fabric with a temperature-regulating thread, it's the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. Say goodbye to tossing and turning and flipping your pillow over in the middle of the night. And more great news on the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer with my promo code Wyatt. MyPillow 2.0 is 100% made in the USA, 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio podcast square to receive the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer. Use my promo code Wyatt or call 1-800-928-4715. Thank you for tuning into Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. You're listening to an episode this hour of Calling All Cars, the West Coast program, as it was originally broadcast on Tuesday, February 26, 1935. In the newspapers of that Tuesday 88 years ago, these were some of the headlines. Cuba's schoolboy strike threatened today to become a general revolutionary walkout, seriously endangering the regime of President Carlos Mandela. The government laid responsibility for the nationwide movement at the door of the communists, while police acted to round up the instigators. 11 giant Army warbirds of the 31st Bombardment Squadron took off from Marchfield, California, on the first leg of a projected 10,000-mile round-trip training flight to Panama by way of San Antonio, Texas, and Washington, D.C. The bombing armada, carrying a force of 32 Army flyers in command of Captain Harold D. Smith, headed for San Antonio. Flight officers said the 1,000-mile jaunt would take between 6 and 7 hours. The death toll in the capsizing of an excursion boat Sunday rose to 34 persons, with the discovery that an additional 6 persons unaccounted for had embarked on the ill-fated pleasure cruise in St. Lucia and the Windward Islands. Those lost were excursionists, part of a group of 108 who packed the little craft and turned it over in the shark-infested waters of the Caribbean. 60 families fled to safety when fire destroyed Western High School in Detroit. H.B. Dolan, Detroit School Board Superintendent, said the loss would be $1 million. Firemen responding to the alarms ordered occupants of nearby houses into the streets, and a 48-apartment building was evacuated. The school janitor discovered the fire on the second floor. The police arson squad conducting the theory that a short circuit has caused the fire. A Senate investigation of the Marine Corps promotion system loomed today as the Democrat senator from Alabama, Black, reiterated his charge that Major General John H. Russell has created a reign of terror throughout the Corps. Black charged that Russell, as Commandant of the Corps, virtually controls promotions in the Corps through a board picked from Russell's friends. Black has consistently blocked Senate confirmation of Russell's appointment and demands a Senate investigation to overcome the hesitancy of officers to testify on conditions in the Corps. Down Alabama way, the state is voting 3-1 to kick its 20-year-old bone-dry law into the discard on the face of early scattered returns. In Birmingham, the Wets were leading 5-1. One downtown box showed 50-4 for repeal, At Mobile, the incomplete absentee count was 3-1 against retention of the dry law. And an odorless cabbage, something new in the vegetable world, was announced today at New York's Cornell University. It will not smell up the house while cooking, yet dietetically and gastronomically, it is a perfect cabbage. The way Professor C.H. Myers of the Department of Plant Breeding got rid of the odor proves that the ladies have been right in turning their noses at it. The old familiar smell turned out to have only been an evolutionary hangover, which disappeared when good breeding was introduced. And those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Tuesday, February 26, 1935, on your radio Calling All Cars. And we'll hear the conclusion following these important messages. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on this Sunday, right here on your favorite radio station. On Monday's Classic Radio Theater, we go back to 85 years, February 27th, 1938, Orson Welles and Agnes Moorehead, starring in The Shadow and The Plot Murder. A hypnotist has sabotaged an aerial torpedo to destroy America's military experts, an early guided missile. That's coming up on Monday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, anytime online at classicradio.stream. But right now, the conclusion of Calling All Cars, 88 years ago, February 26th, 1935.
April 17th, 1929. Stanley and McNabb, California's two-man crime wave, clean out the Oakland Bank on College Avenue. Two months later, on June the 14th, the same daring pair stalk into the Bank of America, Shattuck Avenue and Dwight Way in Berkeley, cow 7 passengers into submission and walk out with $18,000. San Francisco police are completely baffled as to the identity of the bandits, but from witnesses managed to compile a fairly complete description. Every policeman on the force is warned to be on the lookout for them, but weeks pass and nothing is heard of the bandit pair. And one day in the chief's office, the phone rings.
Hello?
Long distance for you, sir.
Very well, put them on. Hello?
Hello. This is Chief Waller of Vancouver.
Yes?
According to a circular I have here, you're looking for a George Summers for
That's
robbery.
right.
Well, Summers ordered a car to be shipped to him at San Francisco address. I thought you'd want to know.
That's right. What's the address?
2304 Leavenworth Street.
2304 Leavenworth Street. Right, and thanks a lot.
That's okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye. All right, boys. Here's something for you to do. Go out to this address and see if you can pick up this bird.
Detective Sergeants William McMahon, George Wall, Otto Meyer, and Robert Rower lose no time in getting to the address. They find it to be an apartment house, so McMahon decides to question the manager.
Jordan, what can I do for you?
We're looking for a person by the name of Summers. I understand he lives here.
And who are you?
We're officers of the law, and we want to see this man.
Well, there is no one here by the name of Summers.
Are you sure of that?
Positive.
That's mighty strange. I was told by a friend of his that I could find him here.
Well, you can't.
Very well. I guess we'll have to search the place if you won't tell us where we can find Summers.
Search the place, is it? But I tell you, I never heard of anyone of that name.
Well, I'm sorry, but I was told to find him, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. That is, unless you want to tell me what apartment he lives in.
If I tell you, will you promise not to tell on me?
Yes, I promise. Now, what's the number of the apartment?
204.
All right, boys, let's go up and take a look. Wall, you'd better stay down here with the switchboard, and if anybody asks for the key to 204, give us a buzz in the room.
Okay.
The rest of you fellas come with me.
Well, I hope we find something more than a deserted room. The chief on the rampage about those other robberies, I wouldn't dare face him without this bird.
Neither would I. 201. 204 must be down the hall a couple of doors. Yeah, here it is. Let's make sure we're alone before we walk in.
Sounds like nobody's home.
Right. Here, let me try my skeleton key on the door. Well, at least the fellow who lives here hasn't skipped. Look at those clothes in that closet. More suits than I've had in the last 10 years. Take a look in the bathroom while I look through this chest of drawers.
Okay.
Hey, Roy, come here.
What's up, Mac?
Will you take a look at what I found in this big drawer?
Well, for the love... Automatic shotguns and enough ammunition to keep the army going for a week. Hey, this bird must be expecting some trouble.
Maybe he's expecting to give some trouble. I think we better stick around here until this gent shows up. And when he does, I'm going to watch my step with him.
Yeah, you and me both. Well, shall we look around some more?
Might as well. I'll see what's in the closet, and you... Oh, wait a minute. I'll answer it. Might be for the guy who lives here, and we don't want to tip him off. Yes? Oh, yes, Wall. Huh? Okay. Stay down there and watch for anyone else.
Well, what's up?
Mrs. Summers coming up.
What are you going to do?
Let her get inside. We'll hide in the bathroom and see what she does. Then we'll walk in and grab her.
Okay, let's get in there.
Can you see her? Yeah. She's got a package. And she's opening that drawer. She's put the package in it. Now, let's get her. Stand where you are.
Who are you?
Officers of the law, ma'am. You're under arrest.
Under arrest? But I don't know what you mean. What are you doing in here?
We're waiting for your husband to show up. No, we're all going to stay right here until he comes. You might as well take it easy and just be quiet. Where is he?
I don't know. I think he's out of town.
Out of town, huh? Well, when will he be back?
I don't know.
All right, we can sit here as long as it's necessary.
What is that package you put in that drawer?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Now, look. I don't know how long we're going to have to wait until Summers gets here. But when he does, if you try to tip him off that we're here, I warn you right now that we're prepared to shoot it out. And I don't think it'll turn out so well for your husband.
Wait a minute, Mac. I think you hear someone coming down the hall.
Probably not coming here. Our Wall would have phoned us.
Hey, he is coming here. Quick, slide against the wall and get him when he opens the door.
Yo, anyone home?
Yeah, we're here. Put up your hands.
Hey, what is this?
You're under arrest, Summers.
Summers? My name ain't Summers.
No? Well, what is it?
That's none of your business.
I'm afraid you're wrong about that. You entered this room with a key. Where'd you get the key if you're not Summers?
Well, I've been staying here for a while, but I don't see what the devil you guys are doing here.
Well, stick around. You'll find out soon enough. Raw, frisk this man.
Hey, you can't do this.
What are you carrying this 38 for? Afraid somebody might hold you up?
Smart guy, ain't you?
Let's see what's in this pocket here. It sort of bulges. Well, Mac, will you look at this? A roll of banknotes big enough to choke a horse.
Where'd you get the money?
What's it to you?
That's all he's got on him, Mac.
All right. Put the cuffs on him. Mrs. Summers, who is this man?
I don't know his name, but he's not my husband.
You don't know his name, and yet he says he's been staying here. Come on, Mrs. Summers. Don't you think that's a bit ridiculous?
I don't know his name.
Oh, all right. I'll get it. Watch those two, Ron. Hello? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, Wall. You'd better come up, too. I might need you.
More company?
Yeah, Summers himself. Keep your eye on these two. I'll take care of Summers.
Right.
On your toes now. He's coming. All right, Summers, put up your hands over your head.
What? Say, what is this, a stick-up?
No, this isn't a stick-up, Summers. You're under arrest. I've got your wife and your friend in the room here, so you might as well take it easy.
Oh, so you're a cop, eh? Well, all right, but take that gun out of my stomach. I'm not armed.
I'll believe that after I've looked for myself. What do you got in that package?
Laundry.
Looks pretty heavy for laundry. Put it down on the floor.
Okay.
Now come in here and stick out your hands. Let's see what's in this bundle. Laundry, eh? A nice brand new submachine gun. Raw, you and Myers take care of this bunch. I'm going to look around this room a bit more and see if I can find anything.
All right, come on, you three. Out of the squad car. Now walk ahead of me and see that you behave yourselves.
Let's see. Where to begin? A trunk over there might be interesting. Holy smoke. It begins to look as though we'd stumbled on something a lot bigger than we thought. Wait till the chief sees this.
A few minutes later, McMahon walks into the chief's office with his discovery.
Chief, I think we've got the birds who've been doing the bank jobs. This Summers guy, his wife, and the other man I sent over. I found these in a drawer in a trunk in their room.
Yeah, let's see what you got there. Banknotes with an Oakland bank wrapper still on them, huh? Traveler's checks and canceled checks. McMahon, you're right. There's enough evidence here to send that bunch up for 15 years.
Summers, his wife, and their companion are grilled for hours, but none of them confesses to the charges. Summers gives one excuse after another. He says that a man gave him a suitcase and asked him to take care of it for a while. But when he found the currency and checks in it, he was afraid to do anything about it and hid everything in his trunk. The police relentlessly continue the questioning hour after hour. Finally, he breaks.
All right. I'll tell you all I know about it. But I want to know what you're going to do with my wife.
And it all depends on what you tell me.
Will you give her $100 if I tell you something?
Give your wife $100? What on earth do you want me to do that for?
Never mind. Will you do it?
All right. I'll do it. Now let's hear what you've got to tell me.
Well, if you'll send a couple of your men over to berth 48 at the yacht harbor, you'll find a boat over there named the Sovereign.
What's that got to do with you?
Well, I own it. McNabb, my wife, and I were all set to get out of here and beat it to the South Seas. We would have been gone in a week if your lousy cops hadn't have walked in. Oh, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, Stanley. I thought there was something familiar about you. You're James Stanley, and your friend is Ethan McNabb. That right?
That's right.
Hey, where'd you collect McNabb?
Well, I met him after he got out of San Quentin. He seemed like a pretty smart guy, so we joined up.
All right, Stanley. We'll go over and take a look at that boat of yours. I'm afraid it won't do you much good for a long time to come.
Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that. The fellow doesn't have to stay in Quentin if he knows his way around. I'll be out of there in a year.
Detectives are sent to the yacht harbor, and Stanley's story proves to be true. The yacht is stocked with enough food to last 30 days and carries a complete arsenal. From the harbor officials, they learned that the boat had sailed down from Vancouver, docking 4 days before, and had been bought by Stanley for $11,500. Stanley and McNabb are tried in the court of Superior Judge Homer R. Spence of Alameda County. Earl Warren, fighting district attorney of Alameda County, prosecutes the case himself and secures a conviction. On the day of July 17, 1929, the two men are found guilty of bank robbery and sentenced to Folsom for from 15 years to life. On September 7th of the same year, they are sent to Folsom, and the San Francisco police close the books. But Stanley and McNabb, determined that they will not stay in prison, make 2 attempts to escape, both unsuccessful. Then Stanley strikes up a companionship with a prisoner by the name of Marty Colson, one of the toughest men in the penitentiary. Together, they plan a way to break out. Colson, while working in the machine shop, constructs a homemade gun out of a piece of pipe and pieces of junk material he steals from the shop. His continual boast to Stanley is that he'll never be taken alive. Finally, after months of preparation, Colson and Stanley are ready to go. They force their way into the office of the warden, and using the homemade gun as a threat...
Phone the warden and tell him to come over. And don't tip him off or I'll plug you, see?
All right. Don't shoot. I'll ring him. Warden, you're wanted at your office on important business. Yes, sir. He'll be right over.
Good. When he gets here, he's going to find something that he didn't expect.
Marty, what's that?
They found out about us.
Well, what do we do? There'll be every guard in this place in here in a second.
We haven't got a chance in the world of getting out of this.
Well, what are we going to do then?
They won't give me a line.
Marty, where are you going?
Come on, Stanley, reach! That's better. Where's Colson?
Over there in the corner. He said you'd never get him alive.
Bumped himself off, huh? Well, Stanley, I guess this is the last time you'll get a chance to make a break. You're going to solitary.
James Stanley has been in solitary confinement ever since. McNabb, after several attempts to break out of Folsom, finally made a desperate attempt to scale the walls with handmade ladders. He was caught, but in the excitement, a guard was seriously wounded, falling back on a rarely used law which reads, a life prisoner may be tried on a death charge following an attempt break in which assault is committed. The authorities tried McNabb and found him guilty. He was sentenced to hang by Judge Butler of San Rafael and transferred to the condemned row at San Quentin. There he managed to involve James McNamara, dynamiter of the Los Angeles Times, in an attempt to smuggle a piece of steel to one of his pals in the yard. Thus ends one of the most interesting cases in the history of bank robbing. Interesting because during the entire career of both McNabb and Stanley, they never had to fire a shot. They were both cool, smart criminals. But they, like all other lawbreakers, made the mistake of being too sure of themselves.
Thank you, Chief Davids.
San Francisco police calling all cars. Attention all cars. Cancellation broadcast 66. Suspects in this case now in custody. That's all.
This is Frederick Lindsley, speaking for the Rio Grande Oil Company.
From 88 years ago, February 26, 1935, Calling All Cars here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Would you take a moment to thank this radio station and support their advertisers? It is their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite radio station. Also, check out all the savings available at mypillow.com. A lot of new stuff on there and something special for your furry friends. The pet blankets and pet beds, check them out. mypillow.com. Use the promo code Wyatt to save you a bunch of money. mypillow.com, promo code Wyatt. Also, while you're browsing the interwebs, check out our webpage, classicradio.stream. Stream our shows on demand. Learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me there. Find our social media links. And if you'd like to support this program, you can buy me a coffee. That buy me a coffee money doesn't buy me coffee, but it does help us keep our distribution channels open, and it also helps us in keeping everything up and running and acquiring additional classic radio collections. classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. Have a great week ahead, won't you please?